to the Unleash Success podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
Welcome back to Unleash Success. Today we interview a very special guest who's an entrepreneur, mentor, artist, and one of the co-founders of Volcom. Volcom is a modern lifestyle brand that really embodies the spirit of the youth culture through board sports-oriented products. As one of the co-founders of Volcom, it's here in Costa Mesa, and it was first started in 1991, went public in 2005, and then in 2011 was sold to the Caring Group for over $600 million. Volcom's known for the youth against establishment and true to this philosophy where it creates products for persistent people who are true to their passions. It is widely recognized by the trademark stone logo that we have here in the background. And that logo is in fact created by our guest. And thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Thom McElroy.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And just for our audience, I kind of want to go back into your story of where this entrepreneurial journey for you really began.
Well, I think it began when I picked up my first sponsorship through surfing. I was 14 years old, and it kind of catapulted me into, the business world of something I was super passionate about, which was surfing. I worked with some great business owners, saying Jack O'Neill, Bob Hurley, who was running Billabong, who eventually started his own line Hurley that he sold to Nike. But I was exposed to a lot of movers and shakers that were super passionate about the sport they loved, and they learned how to make money doing what they loved doing best. So
it's a talent in itself, right?
Yeah, it started early, and as I grew older, I was exposed to higher levels within these companies, and eventually they all became my friends. And if I didn't surf against them growing up, I met them later on, and it was just kind of like a giant fraternity that we were able to push the limits in action sports and do some great things and really live the lifestyle that we love.
That's amazing. Being able to turn your passion into something that actually makes money and supports you is a huge lifestyle step, and something that, especially in the millennial generation, a lot of people are really trying to do, and some people have become very successful. And this is, years ago with Volcom, which is obviously the iconic brand. I mean, I grew up wearing it, and like I was saying earlier, I still have a sweatshirt, shorts, everything, right? So you went to college at SDSU, and you're going through college. Did you start off as a business major, or?
Yeah, it's funny. My dad, when I was starting college, I first had to decide if I was going to serve professionally or actually go to school. So I started off at Orange Coast College here in Orange County, and I was there for 2 years as a business major, but I was always taking art classes on the side. And one day, one of my professors pulled me over to his desk, and he's like, "So, what's your major?" And I said, "It's business administration." He's like, "Why?" And I go, "Well, my dad really wants me to do that." And he's like, "Oh, so you're going to live your dad's life?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what?" Well, my dad, ex-LAPD, mom's a nurse, I was a Catholic family, super conservative. There's no way I can change my major. So I started thinking about it. I had a philosophy class in that semester too, and that was really engaging, and it was kind of pushing my buttons on how I should expand as an individual. And one day I just said, you know what? I'm going to change my major to art. This is what I'm super passionate about. I love drawing. I loved graphic design. And I just loved the whole vibe. Business was very interesting to me, the mechanics of it, the systems of it, but to actually make that as a major was super boring to me. So my dad came home drove down from LA. We were living in Huntington Beach at the time. And I said, "Hey Dad, I'm changing my major." He's like, "Oh, what, finance? What are you doing? Counting? Where are you going?" I go, "To art." And he goes, "There's no way that I'm going to support that." He goes, "You're going to be penniless and living in the streets." and a couple other things he said that I can't bring up. But I'm like, Dad, you just got to believe in me. And so he fought it, and now he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. But that was one of my first exercises of going against parental, that dictatorship.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people always get stuck in what they think their parents want them to do, what society wants them to do, what they think they should do, as opposed to pursuing what they really want to do. So in your head, how did you believe in yourself enough to stand up to your dad and step out of that and say, I'm going to actually do this?
Well, I think what it was is I had a lot of success in surfing, in competing. And, I felt that, I was one of the best amateur surfers. I had that confidence. I learned how to compete. I learned how to search and destroy. So to me, it was a barrier, but it was a barrier that I was going to go through. Regardless of what he said, I was going to go through kind of I go back to the dictatorship. But I just had the confidence. I believed in myself. I always kind of had that growing up, and it helped me. It has always helped me through my business career.
Yeah, excellent. So you decided to pursue art, and how does that go?
It was great. I couldn't believe that it was my major. I would show up every day. I was painting, drawing, graphic design, art history. I love art history. I love architecture, studying everything that I love. And I would meet with other students that were business majors or whatever. And I'm just going, God, poor guys. You guys have to go to the library. I go to the studio and I draw, and I was a printmaking minor, and I got to learn how to serigraph and intaglio and all these great, art mediums. They had everything. It was in San Diego State. It was an up and coming art school at the time. And it was just a great place. Had great professors. And it was like I was cheating, and it was so easy, and I was so passionate about it. And I couldn't believe that I questioned myself maybe a little bit in the beginning, just being a business major.
Curious, just wrap this up, but when you question yourself, because I sometimes question myself even when I'm doing something new. Anytime you're outside your comfort zone, you're questioning, should I really do this, or am I really meant to do this, or should I just stay within my comfort zone because that's sometimes easier? What did you say to yourself? How did you get out of it?
I think what it was going back to surfing. When you're out surfing and the waves are big and you're panic, you're just you're so scared, and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing out here? And then all of a sudden you put yourself out there and you catch that first big wave, and maybe you eat crap and you come up and you're like, oh, I didn't drown. Okay, I can do this. And then you get, you build your confidence and build your confidence and build your confidence. And I think through surfing, I built so much confidence that I can do whatever I wanted, that I was able to kind of break through that barrier and be confident that I can do it.
That's a great analogy too, because with surfing, I know I fall a lot, but every time you fall, you get back up and you keep going again, and there's another wave, then another wave. And sometimes, just to kind of piggyback off that analogy, I know that when the waves are really big, if you get too scared and you try to bail at the last second, you might end up in more trouble.
Yeah.
So you just have to go into the wave and completely commit.
You have to commit.
Yeah. So same way in life too.
Yeah, you got to commit.
So after college, you started your own firm agency for ads, right, and creative communications. Walk us through that early stages of you building your own business and where Volcom kind of came into the picture.
Okay. So right out of college, my mom bought me a couple suits to interview in, and I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer at an advertising agency. Went to ceremony on Thursday, was home that weekend, was out surfing Huntington, ran into a guy out in the water, and he said, hey, did you graduate? And I said, yes. And he goes, do you need a job? And I'm like, yeah, what do you do? And he goes, well, I work at Vision Skateboards. And I go, oh, whoa. And he was like, yeah, I'm the creative director, and come work for me. I'm like, no, I'm going to work for an ad agency, And I'm thinking, God, skating was another passion of mine, skating pools and little parks growing up. And I'm just going, oh, he goes, just come by on Monday. So I show up on Monday, and I go, so what do I do? And he goes, okay, you're gonna work on this skater's board. His name's Mark Gonzalez. And I'm like, the Gons? And he's like, yeah. And so I sat there and I had a technical pen and I was drawing the graphics and he was helping me out. And I'm like, this is exactly what I love to do. And awesome. So at the end of the day, he goes, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, what does it pay? And he goes, $650 an hour. I'm like, whoa. I'm a college graduate. There's no way. I need like 40 grand because all my other friends are making tons of dough. And how am I going to make $650 an hour? And he goes, okay, well, that's just kind of how it is. And I'm like, but something inside of me was just going, this is what you love. You're passionate about it. Go for it. So started working for him at Vision Skateboards at $650 an hour. And because I couldn't pay the bills, I started freelancing at night. And my freelance business got so big, that's when, after 2 years of working at Vision, I left to start McElroy Designs. And I started McElroy Designs the day my son Colin was born. And so I had no job, a brand new baby, and a mortgage. And so when you talk about
for success,
yeah. So when you talk about being up against the wall, and I call it the cockroach mentality, when you just got to chuck and jive and you're in the corner and some guy's trying to kick you and kill you and spray you, and you just got to make things happen and stay alive. And so those things, those pressures, along with my talents and my grip of potential clients or clients I had at the time, really helped me start McElroy Designs. And I started doing t-shirts, skateboard designs, decals, and color separations for those mediums.
Awesome. So I love that when you're up against the wall, you got to kind of duck around and figure out, just find a way. Mm-hmm. Basically, when your son was born, that's when you decided to start the new business? Was it at the same time?
It just coincidentally happened that way.
Okay.
I was actually getting my DBA for McElroy Designs at the Daily Pilot, and I was working out of a neighbor's printing shop, and she knew I was going to Daily Pilot to get my DBA, to get my business going and what have you. And she called over to Daily Pilot and asked if Thom McElroy was there, and they're like, he's filling out the papers right now. You go to the hospital. His wife's in labor. So, so that's kind of how it all started.
And so
total coincidence.
Yeah, from that moment, that's tough. I don't have kids yet. I know a lot of my friends, some good friends, have kids, and young ones especially. My cousins all have toddlers running around, and that can be really tough. That's a job within itself. How did you manage having a brand new son and a brand new business, which is like a baby too?
It was the most fun and the most scary time in my life. It was fun because here I am meeting with great potential clients meeting with Bob Hurley, who was wearing Billabong, Danny Kwok at Quiksilver, Charles Crow at Quiksilver. I had like all my friends that I surfed with, or like Bob Hurley used to shape my surfboard. So that was my in with him. Wow. He was like a second dad. So it was like, all of a sudden it was so fun because I was in their offices working and they were buying my designs, and it wasn't even work. It was like I said, I thought I was cheating, and it was so much fun. So that part was fun. And then, obviously, being married and having a brand new baby and those stresses where you have to get home and help out, and you're up all night but everything was very understanding around my situation. And I had a great mentor too, Paul Oxman. I was working out of his print shop. He actually gave me a loan for $3,000, and my mom bought me a copier from Price Club, which is Costco now. So just with that smaller investment, I built the company up to $30 million in billings.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
We talked about mentorship a little bit before this, and just how important it is to have a good mentor. And you yourself are a mentor for college and high school kids, right?
Yeah.
How do you think that also too, not just mentorship, but it sounds like you meet everybody who you started doing business with on the water, doing what you love, and just having a good, strong group of people around you and mentors. How do you think that's impacted your life through the years? Tremendously.
In the beginning, when anything would happen business-wise, I would, drive over to Bob Hurley's house and sit down with him and Shelly and just go, this is what's going on. Because my dad really didn't have that skill set. So I would always reach out to other people. Paul Oxman, this is what's going down. Okay, meet my banker, meet my lawyer. They gave me their Rolodex of people. So it was so great that I had that support mechanism around me that were able to allow me to do whatever I want. And I had all the resources at my fingertips. And if they didn't have it, I was one of those guys that went out and got it.
Absolutely.
You just had to make it happen.
And something interesting you said about someone who you're mentoring right now, a high school kid, I think you said, right? Who just, what intrigued you about him was he stepped out of the box and reached out to you. And just for people who are listening to this who go, wow, you're so lucky. You had Bob Hurley who was helping you out and giving you all these resources. It's not, we always, if we look for it, we can find somebody in our life that can help us or can introduce us to someone who can help us. And one thing that you said about that kid who reached out to you was that he just stepped out and asked you for some help. And I found personally too with my mentors, and we were talking about this earlier, is just saying, hey, what's different about me? Am I special that they're just attracting me? Well, I'm working hard, which definitely attracts people. But at the same time, I go out there looking for someone and asking for help. And I think that's a big thing. So that people who feel like they don't have the right mentor, they can go find someone. They can go ask someone between schools. I know schools have tons of mentorship programs like you do at San Diego State and high schools. And as well, there's a network called SCORE, where people can find a mentor for business or whatever that is in life. So I think it's amazing how you're doing that and kind of giving back to other kids now.
It's very important because I was that kid and I really didn't reach out to that many people because I thought I knew everything, just like we all do.
Of course.
But as I grew more mature, I realized how important it was to reach out. And when you have a good mentor, model yourself after them. Really look at things that they do best and model yourself after those great things. And when you do that, you have like this, I don't know, this belt of confidence or you just feel like you have that knowledge and you become more powerful. They always say knowledge is power. And it really is true.
I think it's funny. I think that as well. I think you got to know the first strategy and seeing someone else do it. But the second thing you said was model what they do and do what they do. And that's always what we talk about is just how to take that knowledge and turn it into action. Because so many people know how to lose weight, but still don't do it. Know how to save money and still they're in debt. And so that's, to me, the biggest thing that you started doing was you modeled their habits, their strategies, and actually took that and applied it to your life. So you're building a $30 million business. And at the same time, you're doing that, you're doing that full time. And then in 1991, you start working with Volcom. And how did you balance building your own business and this business at the same time?
So how the whole Volcom brand started was that Quiksilver in 1990 was my biggest client. At that point, I was past just doing T-shirts, decals, skateboards, color separations. I was doing all their advertising. I was doing all their lookbooks, their basically all their visuals. And I was working very closely with Danny Kwok, their marketing director, and Richard Wolcott, who was the assistant marketing director. And I happened that I surfed against both of them growing up. So they were really good friends. And we just had this great rapport. We did everything together. And there was a dip in the economy in 1990. Quiksilver brought in some people from outside the seed. And it was kind of faltering, and they were putting down some unrealistic goals on the guys. And at that point, Rich is just like, I want to start something new. I want to do a surf skate snow brand. And I'm like, well, I'll do the logo and I'll do whatever that takes. And Danny's like, secretly, I would love to, do he's a visionary. He's the ultimate visionary that I've ever met. And so us three, we just kind of got together and that's kind of how it all started. And, it started from absolutely nothing. Rich had a little office in his apartment. He just did a Sunkist commercial, so he made like 10 grand. So that's why Quiksilver. So he was living high and mighty back then. And he just, became one of the best CEOs in action sports. He dedicated his whole life to build that company. And it was an amazing journey with these two. And I brought in Rich's dad, who brought in that senior vision. He was one of the biggest heavy hitters on Wall Street in the 70s. So he was managing a lot of money at the time, and the great insights. And he was just like Moses, just knew everything, and he had his tablets. And, so McElroy was here, and Volcom was always close by. If it wasn't in my same building, it was across the street, or so.
Physically, they were very close.
We were Bobsey twins. So, I'd work 8 hours at McElroy, and then I'd work all night on Volcom stuff. And I was doing that probably, 5-6 days a week. And, along with having another child and a family and everything, it was just this shell game that was crazy and so much fun and taxing at the same time, which was pretty amazing. But, Volcom, we almost shut the doors probably 5 times in the first couple of years. I was just looking through some of the first financials, and I was laughing, going, okay, so we gave out $10,000 and we did $2,000 worth of business. We crushed it first year. We were ready to fold it up after that. And that's when Rich's dad came in and some money injections and what have you. But by year 3, we had traction, we had accounts. We were learning how to actually build clothes the right way. But we did everything in a youth against establishment way. And it's not going against the government or schools or what have you. It was youth against establishment was just going against the common way of thinking. Everyone lives within this box, and youth against establishment is just this poke for everyone to just get out of the box, think freely, and do what you're passionate about. And my partners were super passionate about it. Tucker Hall was there from the very beginning as well, and he was the sales guy, and he had charisma that you couldn't believe. So when the Volcom party came into a new account with a 12-pack of beer and just the whole gang, everyone was like, I want a part of this. And that was pretty much the campaign until, years on. So,
Wow, there's so much amazing information right there. So I was so you're starting off with, you've got 8 hours and 8 hours. You got 2 kids now. I want to just go over that a little bit real quick, because so many younger kids who want success and want to build a business, I'm trying so hard, well, really, what do you do? I put 30 hours of work in my job, and, on the weekends, I don't do anything. They don't understand how much it takes in 5-6 days a week, 16-hour days for 5 years before you really saw anything. And that's what it takes. To go into, you said you almost closed the doors 5 times even. What was one of the biggest obstacles you guys faced with Volcom, and how did you guys overcome it?
Money, number one, just having enough money to produce our orders, because the stuff was getting so hot. We were the number 1 brand. Everyone thought we were huge, but we were still basically one step out of a garage. But the best thing was that we had Richard, who was, Pepperdine graduate. We had an MBA as our CFO, Doug Collier. We were stacked and educated behind the veil, but we had every punk rock kid crazy as team writers and ambassadors. So we had the vibe, the marketing, the vibe was brilliant.
What did you guys do? I mean, you said you were selling out like crazy. You were the number one brand. People thought you guys were so successful. How did you go from just an idea or a passion to build that brand? What did you guys do?
We tapped into everything we were exposed to growing up. With Richard, he grew up with Quiksilver, and he was the assistant marketing manager. So he grew up stickering program. We had, back in the day, there was not one light pole or electrical box in Orange County that didn't have a Volcom stone on. So
you guys literally put stickers on every single one?
We stickered everything.
I love that. That's awesome.
We'd cruise and see cool kids, around high schools and what have you, and just go, hey, dude, hey, here's a box of clothes. Wear it, and then whoever your coolest friends are, give them these stickers. And oh, by the way, here's a bunch of the big stickers, and put them everywhere. So our biggest campaign was, in the very beginning, was a sticker program. And we had stickers everywhere. And we couldn't afford trade shows. So we would sit outside of trade shows with a U-Haul truck and sell out of a U-Haul truck until we'd get closed down. Then we'd move to a hotel room. And it was just this mysterious anarchy machine that everyone wanted to be a part of, but we were so elusive that no one really knew what was going on.
You were so elusive because you couldn't afford to get in the trade show.
Exactly. We couldn't afford to get in there and sell, so we had to have the U-Haul.
Man, I love the hustle.
Gutter. It was gutter marketing.
Absolutely.
From the gutter up.
And people get so preoccupied with social media advertising now because it's so easy, right? I just click a button, I hire somebody, and then they run ads, and people are overwhelmed with the stimulus. I love how you guys you're doing this well before social media was around. But I almost feel people need to bring that same attitude back where you're walking up to people and talking to them. Hey man, this is what you got to go do this. Going to actually meet these people in person, and then just the physical advertisements of putting stickers everywhere. Fantastic. Yeah. Super cool.
In regards to finding intelligence on what kids were into, with my agency, I always subscribed to research. But by the time the research was gathered, reported, and got to me, it was already old. I mean, I'm in youth marketing, the most fickle market in the world. It is, kids change week to week, what have you.
Yeah.
So what we would do is I would have people that would go to concerts and events and not pass out flyers, but just go up and go, hey bro, what's up? Yeah, so why you wearing Vans? So why you rocking Dickies? Oh, cool, that's a cool shirt. Like, where'd you get that? And is it mind if we take a Polaroid of you? Okay, cool. Here's whatever, sticker or whatever. Hey, thanks, And we would have all these street teams across the nation, and that's how we got our information. And we got it so that we knew what was going on that weekend rather than what happened 3 to 6 months prior. So that's how that's how McElroy was always ahead of everyone else, because we had the best intelligence. We went out there and hired the coolest kids to gather it. Yeah. And then, of course, that was pushed right into at the board meetings of Volcom. Hey, this is what's going on, sit with the designers, Neil Harrison. Hey, what about this? This is some Polaroid, just kind of influence on that side. Yeah, it was all about intelligence, knowing what the kid was wearing. And, I would look for that one kid that was on the tip of the pyramid who kind of runs the program, who everyone looks up to, and just go, okay, what is he wearing?
Yeah.
What music is he listening to?
How did you find a guy like that? Because, there are people like that too, who when they do one thing and suddenly everybody listens to, you had teams of people out there. How'd you recruit them?
It was easy because they wanted to be a part of Volcom. And Rich did an incredible job, and Troy Eckert and those guys, they knew how to get those best guys. They knew how to get they weren't the best team riders other than like a Terrier, who was the best snowboarder in the world, but we always got the coolest kid to wear and surf or skate or ride for us. It was always everyone gravitated to us. Kelly Slater was wearing our stuff when he was with Quiksilver, and he wore it because, he's good friends with all of us and Rich and Danny and whatever, but it was like he wanted to wear it because it was cool. Because back then Quick was super conservative, and here was Volcom. It was just everything. It was
That's
punk
incredible.
rock, and yeah.
I don't know if you ever read the book called The Tipping Point.
Yep,
Yeah,
read it.
Fantastic book. But it talks about those the shoes, the Crocs, and how you get a few influential people who start to wear them, and all of a sudden something that just doesn't even seem popular at all now comes in waves, and just thousands and thousands of people start subscribing to it. That's exactly what it sounds like you guys did. You managed to hit the key influencers to get to a tipping point where all of a sudden, boom, you were off to the races. So amazing.
Yeah, and we started, our demographic in the very beginning was like 8 to 14. We wanted the kids. We knew if we planted the seed with these kids and they became disciples, they were going to wear our stuff forever.
Yeah.
And it's true. There's guys that are still from day one, from day one, a couple of them work for other companies right now, but they, to this day, you've just talked about Volcom, they're just like, it was something that they had growing up, and they still love the brand and still wear it if they can. A couple of guys work for other
brands,
other brands, and they can't wear it, but they still love the brand. But it was like getting them young, planting the seed, nurturing them. It's just like growing a plant.
And so what really attracted everybody to your guys' brand was this pursue your passion, think outside the box, youth against establishment. What was going on at the time where people were paint us the picture of what everybody else kind of looked like and how you guys just were that out of the box, and that's what started to attract everybody over to you, your uniqueness.
Yeah. Early 90s, mid 90s, everyone was super conservative, preppy. Surfing was just getting so dull. Snowboarding, on the other hand, had this just anarchy vibe. Skiing was going out because it was lame. And the skis, nobody changed the two planks. They were the same planks. Snowboarding came in and just changed it. It was easy. People, the learning curve was faster. Plus, you just had this attitude of when you strapped into a snowboard, you were like an anarchist. And with that came the fashion. And, in the very beginning, had these big old wide denim pants and jeans and a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. It could be snowing in 5 degrees below zero, and you're only in a sweatshirt and oversized jeans. And it was like, you're freezing, but you're cool. And that cool factor got you through the freezingness of it all. But yeah, we tapped into snowboarding and that vibe. And we were always able to, whatever sport was kind of leading fashion and image-wise, we were able to kind of put that out as a forerunner. Yeah. And there's been instances where nobody knew what Volcom was. Was it a surf brand? Was it a snowboard brand? Was it a skate brand? Is it a music label? What is it? It's a lifestyle.
Bingo.
And once you become a lifestyle, it doesn't matter if you are clothing, music, surfing, skating, snowboarding, whatever. You're a lifestyle, and people want to be a part of it. So whatever you put out, people will buy it.
That's amazing. Incredible how you create that. I'm curious to know, when you were starting out, how did you define success? What did it mean to be successful for you?
For me, it was being able to do everything I want to do and be able to pay my bills and make money. And I learned at Vision Skateboards that you can get rich working for somebody, but you'll never be wealthy. Mm-hmm. And Paul Oxman taught me that too. He goes, Tom, you want to be wealthy. And money, I didn't even care about money ever. It was just whatever. And the more I didn't care about it, the more I made. And the more I made, I didn't care about it, and people wanted to pay me even more. It was just weird dynamic that happened. And so, I don't know, I wanted to live the lifestyle. I wanted to do the things I wanted to do. I wanted to have a good family life. I wanted the full Monty. And be passionate about what I did. I mean, I'd show up at work every day and go, are you kidding me? I get paid for this?
That's so cool. I gotta tell you, especially nowadays, a lot of people that I talk to, the ones that struggle, with the job that they took for money, not for love. Mm-hmm. And then you've got people who say, well, and I've struggled with that too. Don't get me wrong. I've really struggled with it at times. And I find that some people say, well, you can't just pursue your passion because, your passion doesn't make money. You got to pay the bills first. Mm-hmm. So you find something that kind of pays the bills. It's just so hard to make sure you're passionate. What do you tell kids right now that right out of college or in college that want to pursue something like art, which my dad probably would have laughed. I actually did acting for a while, and he kind of had a similar conversation with me. You're not going to be a dentist? What do you mean? And so what do you tell kids when they want to pursue that passion and they're concerned about just surviving? Because that's a really big deal with student loan debt and high, the economy is so difficult. It's harder to get a job. You're not getting paid well. What do you tell them?
Great question. And it's probably one of the biggest issues that a graduate goes through right now. There's some kids that come right out of the gate. They can become entrepreneurs because they started something in college and they have that set of skills and they're on that's a very, 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 very small percentage of kids. Other kids, what I tell them is find something that you like and that you can learn from. What are you going to learn from? You want to work for a company that you're going to learn something from, you're going to excel, and it's going to build your resume and build you as a business person. You need that skill set. And then but if you have your passion, have that eye on that target. Have that nugget out there that if time comes, and when time does come, if you truly want to be an entrepreneur, you need to reach out and go for it. There's going to be a time when your passion, your risk level, your confidence in yourself will all come together and you're surrounded around good people. That's when you jump ship and you start something.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. So the kids, you can tell kids that are very complacent with where they're at, and you just say, become an entrepreneur within the company.
I like that, yeah.
Become that entrepreneur. If you need to be comfortable within a company, and I have one of my dearest friends is that guy. He is the best company guy in the world. But once he works for a company, he's an entrepreneur within, and he kicks ass.
Just to explain that for everybody, being an entrepreneur in the company, you mean being that go-getter, that leader, but still in the security net of working for that company.
Exactly. Just kind of pushing things and not doing it in a way that's offensive, but do it in a way that you're enrolling people on your vision and where you want to go in a way that is positive.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to follow you if you're a kook.
Yeah, I get
but
it.
If you are positive, people will follow you, and it's pretty simple.
I laugh because I think sometimes some people think I'm crazy, just with as my vision kind of grows and grows and grows, and they go, "How would you possibly do that?" But I also think that passion comes into play, right? Mm-hmm. When you're so passionate about something, you're able to find a way, and no matter what happens, no matter what obstacle you hit, no matter how many times you quote unquote fail, it's never a failure. You're learning, you're growing, you're figuring out how to get to what you want. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to another question for you. During those 5 years, as you're growing both of your businesses, how did you stay focused? What did you do when things did get tough?
I went to my roots, which was family and surfing. It's amazing when you sit on your board and you look out at the horizon, life gets super clear. So I look at surfing as my therapist. And the family mechanism was there. It was solid, it was comfortable, and it was user-friendly. So I had that as well. So I had that, and then I had the wealth of friendships and business partners that I worked with that were like my extended family. So I had this just giant group of just everything that made it very comfortable for me.
So you had a great network. And then also you surf every day, right? And so I think that everybody's got something out there. Yours is surfing, which you're right. Sometimes you can be sitting on the water and there's just that clarity. It's about being in Mother Nature. Plus it really calms you down because it's so powerful and beautiful all at the same time. And I feel that a lot in different sports, and everything that I do sometimes with physical exertion is a meditative state to clear yourself and clear your mind. And I think that's an important daily habit, daily practice that you have that I also love. I think it's great.
Meditation, yoga, just anything where you're pushing that exertion, getting the endorphins firing. You have your adrenaline. You're out of the office. I would make everyone leave the office at lunch to go surfing or swim, whatever you were into.
At lunch, you would make everybody leave?
It was like, no, you're not eating in the office. No, we'll get out of here. Or if they weren't doing it, I would basically go find out what they were into and go do it with them.
That's awesome.
Let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
Because when everyone would come back at 1:00, everyone was super stoked. And I would tell clients, all new clients, I go, by the way, you cannot contact me in between 11:30 to 1 because I'm gone. And I don't do martini lunches. I'm surfing or I'm swimming, I'm doing something. And people are like, well, you can't do that. I'm like,
yes, I can.
Look at this smile.
That's awesome. I think everybody's got to find something that breaks out of the way. And you said get out of the office. And in my head, I was like, oh, not just out of the office, but out of my head too. Because every problem we have always spirals out of control in our head. And so we've got to get out of the office, but out of our head. And those kind of activities really help do that.
Exactly.
Super cool. One of the other things that I love, and looking at your books here in your studio, talking about logos. You were the artist behind one of the most iconic logos, definitely of my generation, and really, for worldwide in this entire skate, snow, surf brand lifestyle. How did you design this? Where was your inspiration? You talked a lot about how you do so much in-depth research. Can you go into that process for us?
Yeah. So originally the company was Stone Boardware. And with that, okay, stone, what is it? It's a piece of earth. It's something that Mother Nature created. So what I did was I Greek mythology, went through everything that related to earth, wind, and fire. And then from there, I loved geology in college. I always took geology classes. So I went to geology, went through numerous, geological books. And I got this one pamphlet. It was about the earth and different structures and what have you. And it was just built from 1940. It's just this little black and white pamphlet that I think my brother picked up. My youngest brother was my runner. He would run to the library and this was before the computer. So you just couldn't Google something and it would just load. So I actually had to go to the library and research and get imagery for what I was doing. So I got the book and this, looking through the pamphlet, and I got to this one chapter. It said, the diamond, the most precious stone. And I'm like, whoa, that has a really cool ring to it. Open it up. Second page, there's a diagram of a diamond cut in half. And the soul of that diamond, it was a line drawing, and I went, that's really cool. And so I sketched it, and it was still like the diamond logo. Now that ripped off the Volcom logo. Sorry guys. So I first drew it that way on a tissue, and back then everything was positive, negative, because I just felt the yin and the yang was just so important in everyone's life. And that was just kind of how I was thinking at the time, black and white, black and white, no gray area. You commit, you got to just make it happen. So I sketched it, and then I did my little positive, negative deal on it. And I remember drawing it, and it was really squatty, and I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. And I remember showing it to Rich and Danny, and they're just like, yeah, looking, things are good. And I remember, and I think, I don't know how the process was of just turning it upside down where it looked like you can, like a thorn on a rose, branch. And I'm like, oh, it looks like you can prick yourself. And then from there, it was just like, okay, condense it and bring it in more so it looks a little more aggressive, and tighten up all the positive negatives and really make that soul of the diamond come out. And so basically the Volcom stone is a soul of a diamond, the most precious stone.
That's beautiful. I love the depth that you go into with your research and for that logo and creating the soul of the diamond. That's pretty cool. And it's clear to me that the passion that you had when you started that is just as clear today.
Yeah.
And I love that because I really think that the passion's the energy. You know, it was how to stay motivated in some of those tough times that like we were talking about when you're really struggling. And if you're passionate about what you do, you're going to pursue it for extended periods of time. Just thinking about some of the strategies really that people do, new entrepreneurs. So, you know, kids who are struggling to get out of a job into entrepreneurship, but the entrepreneurs that are really already starting to run the business. With growing two business, you have, and 30 million and 600 million later on down the line, you've been able to create this amazing lifestyle. What kind of strategies would you recommend for young entrepreneurs to become more successful more quickly too, to be able to grow their business as fast as possible?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing to do is it's great to do a business plan and what have you, but once that business plan lasts periods inked on it, it's obsolete because the world's already changed. So basically, you need to get out there and know your market and push the limits and not worry about funding and all this other crap. Just make it. I mean, if you need to bootstrap it, whatever you need to do, use credit cards, whatever it takes to get product or a service into the market, you do it immediately. And then you can do all the research and build your network around you, your support mechanism to get it to the next level. I know so many people that have wasted so much time trying to get funding for projects. And it was a great idea 2 years ago, but they haven't got their money yet and they're still fumbling. I think what it is you immerse yourself. There's no failure. If you believe in your concept and if you've done the research to know that the market needs that product or service, then you just need to make it happen. And you need to go out and research how to better yourself within the market, know your competition, how to be ahead of them, and also learn how to run your company better. And not waste, because there's so many people that start companies and they get a windfall of money and they're like, oh my God, big salaries and everything. And then year two, you're out of money and the thing's gone. Great idea, but mismanaged.
I saw a list of the top 10 funded companies of 2017 that failed and are gone. And at the top of that list, this one blows me away. Juicero, which was a machine that could squeeze the juice packet, fresh juice, received like $120 to $140 million in funding. And then on the internet, they found out they could buy the juice packet without buying the $700 machine and just squeeze it with their hand. And it was just as good. And then the company's pretty much folding. I mean, they're like selling cheaper products, but it was one of the biggest failures. And I think, doing the research, like you said, but not necessarily looking for the next round of funding, but how are you going to create a viable business that makes money? And another thing you said too was action. Right? You got to get out there and do it. And I really believe in the 80-20 rule, which is, 80% of our results come from 20% of our actions, but we got to know which actions to take. And if you haven't taken any action, you absolutely need to take some action, of course. For somebody who is struggling with just the entrepreneurship journey, getting out there, what's one action we could take today that would be definitely stepping forward in the right direction?
I would reach out to whatever space you're in, and reach out in research or reach out in somebody who's involved in it, who works for a company, or a competitor, or somebody that you can learn from, you can model from, that could give you a little edge to have a better product, and don't spend so much time not building the product, but just getting something out there to get feedback. Time is of essence. But I think basically reaching out and finding that right person that could help you, or the right seminar, or just something that out there that can educate you to get you to the next.
It's amazing. I think the theme of mentorship is kind of been filtered into our conversations almost. It's just coming up again and again and again. And just, it shows how powerful it is to find somebody who's done what you want to do, learn from them, so you can almost condense time, right? I mean, they take a lifetime of experience and you can learn it in a couple hours or a couple days or over the course of a few months if you're, being mentored by them, and almost skip ahead and not make their same mistakes. And then another thing too is getting something to product or to the customer in a way where you're actually starting to make money so you can get a result, you get feedback. Recently, I've just talked to a few people that, are starting something new, working on something. I myself have worked on things for a year, and then, by the time you get to be done, it's not exactly what you thought, and you didn't do enough research, or it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. And one thing now that I do is I just try to get 80 to 85% of the way there. I don't want to be perfect anymore. Somewhere along the line, I thought I had to be perfect, and you know what? I don't want to do that. To me, it's like an exam in school, or getting ready for a sports game. You just got to go out there and do it. You prepare as best you can, but eventually you got to do it so you can see what the results are. And that also brings up another thing that you kind of talked about or hinted at. How do you define failure? Because it doesn't seem you fail, but sometimes people define failure as an endpoint. What is it to you?
I think failure is a beginning point, because you've just had a harsh lesson of reality, and you can react in a positive way or a negative way. There's been so many instances where, if it's not your core business and you failed, you can just go, okay, I'm done. Or if it's your core business and you failed, you need to learn immediately how to make it happen. How do you change your business model? How do you change the way of thinking with your employees? I mean, you have to commit to change right then and there. But for me, failure has always been something where it's like a wildfire that came in and burned everything down, and then all of a sudden the new plant grows and something new comes up that wasn't even on the radar. So, and I've been there. I've walked away from businesses that I thought I was going to be my core business, lost big time. And there's other ones where it was within my core business, I failed, and I learned how to do it down the road better. Yeah.
It's interesting, a lot of parallels in our life a little bit. I mean, there's been things that I've tried and failed at. Other things that have, always been my core business where I even failed in there and had to learn from it. And I think that's important as especially the younger generation goes out. As sometimes people say, well, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm like, you don't have to make that decision now necessarily, but you've got to try different things. You've got to really push and really commit to it though as well. And sometimes you crash and burn, but out of that burn, something new develops. And whatever you learn from that in the past, it leads into creating something bigger and better for you down the line.
Absolutely.
I think that's absolutely incredible. And just if there's anything else too for entrepreneurs that maybe you have some piece of advice or something that you tell your kids as they're going into business.
I would say chase your passion, take risk, surround yourself with good people, and believe in yourself. And I think with those four things, they create luck. And if you enroll and subscribe to those four things, you're going to become lucky, and your luck will become better and better. And that's one thing that people have talked to me about over the years. They're like, "Oh, McElroy, you're so lucky." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, everything just happened for you." And I'm like, "Bullshit. I've took amazing risk. I've leveraged everything. But I was super passionate about what I was doing, and I believed in myself, and I had a network of really good people. Hell, of course I'm lucky.
Success, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I always say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And if you take enough action, eventually you're going to get lucky, right? Yeah. I love those 4 steps. I think that's 100% true. And And just to wrap this up, if anybody wanted to reach out to you, social media, we can reach out. How to
Instagram, Thom McElroy, THOMMCELROY, and Facebook, Thom McElroy.
And I always believe that there's a next level of success that everybody's always growing to as we become better. I mean, you've retired, easily with these companies as you've grown them, but there's always a next level of success in different areas of life. So for you, what are you doing now, and what's your next level of success?
My level of success and will be is helping kids get to the next level, at high school level, in college level, as a mentor, helping out San Diego State. I sit on the board there. I chair a department. It's just, I want to help out kids, and I'll do whatever it takes for that to happen. And so that is my ultimate task right now, is just to help the school out, help the kids out, just so they become success and just better people.
I gotta tell you, I think that I'm sure they know it, and if they don't, just say it, but they're all very lucky to have someone like you who's willing to donate their time and energy and focus to be able to help them become more successful, because we need more people like you to be able to teach the young kids and help them grow into the great human beings as well. So thank you very much for coming on Unleash Success.
It was a great time. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
If you guys enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that we have is please go subscribe. If you'd like to leave us a 5-star rating and review, that definitely helps us get our message out there. Because each week I'm going to interview amazing people, and I want to be able to give you more and more tools and strategies that get you real results. Feel free to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram at Corey Corpodian, or just visit the website at unleashsuccess.com. Remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So go take some action. Subscribe to the podcast and get ready to unleash success in you.